I shouldn't mumble,
I
right?
know, right?
Hello.
Yeah, don't mumble.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Spencer Covey Show. Today we have Keith McGregor, aka Split, who I worked with on a project at Burningman, building a solar shrine. And now Keith is in Michigan, visiting us in the beautiful Mitten State. Without further ado, here's Keith. I'll call you Split from now on.
All right, thanks, Spence. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All the way from the land of the Golden Bear, California.
Yeah, we finally got some sunshine out here for you for a day or two.
Yeah, had to import it all the way from California, but if that's what it takes.
It's been hard manifesting. I tell you.
Well, it better, yeah, however you gotta do it.
Yeah, it's nice and warm out there today.
So let's talk a little bit about Burning Man. I think that's been a big topic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you're quite the veteran. You've been going now for 20 years?
19.
19?
Yeah.
So let's just round up. No, just kidding. Next year will be 20.
Yeah. The next time I go, it'll be 20.
Are you planning anything big for, I guess it'll be 2023 then? That'll be your...
I don't have any plans.
No?
The French Quarter Art Card just came back from the Spanish Springs where it's being housed. I think that's going to be an opportunity for community around where I'm at. Reworking that. But I'm not sure what next year's Burning Man's going to hold.
Okay.
I like to kind of go in blind and see who needs, saving at the last minute and then charge in with my cape and be like, here I am.
I've got my hammer. I can fix this.
I can fix anything.
So now, for the folks listening, an art car, it's not just two compound words. It actually means something much bigger than that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's better maybe called a mutant vehicle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a piece of art. It's a mobile piece of art. Sometimes it'll have music. A lot of times, it serves as a form of transportation. But sometimes, we'll take it out and we'll set up a night market and we'll put out charcuterie boards and bread and this and that and it just acts as a backdrop for whatever's happening in the moment. And it could be anything. Ours just happens to look like a 2-story French Quarter building.
Yeah. And so I think that they're best described as art projects built on some sort of chassis. And I think that those sizes range from anywhere from like a double-decker bus or maybe a single-decker bus to like a golf cart.
Yeah, I've even seen one built on the back of what was a British, it was called a duck. It was a British amphibious assault vehicle.
Yeah.
And it was a giant rubber ducky that was huge and had a crown on its head and shot lasers out of its eyes. And I ran around one year really high on mushrooms saying, "Fuck you, chicken," while I was chasing it just out of my gourd. But that's
it's kind of what you want, right?
That's where I was at that moment. And
in the middle of the desert.
In the middle of the desert.
Did they have any sort of like water feature to compensate for the dust?
No, it just looked like a big giant rubber ducky floating across a dark, dry lake bed.
No topless women with squirt guns or anything like that?
Maybe during the day, but when I happened into it at night, it was wholly something else to behold.
Yeah.
I was in the right place to behold it.
So what would you say is the most absurd art car you've ever seen?
Well, that one was pretty up there.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. There was a pretty famous one I saw this year that I hadn't seen in many years, and it was San Francisco used to have these buses that were articulated in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And they made like a purple dragon type thing out of it. It was pretty famous for a while. I've seen covered wagons.
Okay.
So it looks like there's a giant covered wagon going across the prairie at night with like green LEDs on it.
Okay.
I mean, there's so much.
With
Whatever.
like big dragon horses or something, or just
No, it was just it didn't. You couldn't see what was pulling it. It was just moving across by
I
itself.
met him.
Yeah?
He's a Japanese fellow.
Is that right?
Yeah, I tried to get him to give you a ride when we were at the party, the last party. I
Well,
went up to him. I was like, "Hey, it was big, huge wheels."
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
That's why I was trying to get us a ride on, and he
Yeah.
wouldn't do it.
yeah.
He's like, "Hey, man, I'd love to, but I can't move even if I wanted to. And then if I do move, it's already full. What do you want me to
Yeah.
do?" It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess then that, yeah. So the way they work, from what I can tell, and I only went the one time, is that somebody will take it upon themselves to build something cool, and there's usually either a camp or a crew associated with it, and they seem to have some level of like first dibs. However, yes and no.
Yeah. So I think.
But people hop on and off all the time, it seems, too.
Yeah, I think what happens is somebody has inspiration and then they build community around building the thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's an art car or whether it's an art piece or whatever the thing is.
Theme camp.
The theme camp or whatever it is that you're going to show at this art show that is Burningman, because it's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
And so you kind of work together in the off season to produce this thing.
Mm.
And then you have a team of people that are gonna intimately familiar with it, and then they deploy it, right? And then they offer it to the community, probably mostly, I would say, like Monday through Thursday. You know, it's out there, it's being seen, you're offering rides to people. And then you get to Thursday when like the burns start to happen, and then that nuclear group starts to kind of coalesce and say, hey, you know, we want to go see this art burn together. And then that takes up all the free space that they would have. So I think as long as you're doing your, you know, gifting of rides in the beginning of the event, and you're not just a douchebag about it, I think people start to realize, well, hey, you know, I want to watch the man burn from my art car, and then they're inspired to go home and get their people together and, you know, have that experience. And it keeps fostering that.
So there's always room for more.
There's always going to be room for more.
Yeah. And I don't know. Do you know? Do you apply to? You have to apply to be an art.
Yeah, you have
right?
to do a submission to the DMV. We have a DMV, and there's some parameters that they want you to hit, and then you have to go through. It's like a licensing type thing where you get it up there and you show them your application and you show them your original drawing, and then you know this is what we did, and then they're gonna kind of critique this, or they're going to critique that, or they're going to want you to cover this or cover that, or be lit this way. And there's a day license only, so if you don't get all your lighting done, you can still drive around during the day. And then you have to go back for a night license once you're all lit up, and then you get your night license, and then you're free to go do whatever you want. You get the sticker, and then the BLM won't pull you over, or the Rangers won't pull you over.
Yeah.
I had to do that with the French Quarter art car.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of structure for what seems like a party in the desert, and I was surprised to learn that there is certainly that party aspect, but I came back telling people it's a lot more about building than it is about partying.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that was my perspective, but
Well, I mean, many years ago, I think they realized the trajectory, and they started this campaign where they were saying, like, take Burning Man home with you. Take it home with you. And I think that's a big part of the thing, is a lot of people would go up there and they'd see all this amazing stuff, and then they'd go away for 345 days, and they'd come back and they'd be like, oh, there's all this amazing stuff again. And it was a handful of people out of a handful of areas that were doing it. And then people just got inspired to do more stuff and be involved. And it gave them a sense of community that they might not have otherwise had. And then they started growing those communities, you know, back home. And then the regional events started happening. And, you know, it kind of ballooned from there. I know it gave me a home. It gave me some chosen family to draw upon, you know, and now I kind of feel like I'm in a place where the next generation's coming up, and I want to, you know, share my skills with them, because most of the people that show up, they're really highly educated. They're engineers, they're architects, they're whatever, but they just don't have any practical experience, you know. And then all of a sudden they show up, and here's this thing, this
monstrosity,
this Cushman like warehouse thing, and there's like, we're gonna make the Mars rover art car out of this, which is a real story. You know? I did that with a team of people out of LA that were out of JPL, and then we hooked up to the internet out there and broadcast the burn to like 23,000 people that couldn't make it to Burning Man that year. From inside the circle, as if the Mars rover art car was beaming, you know, stuff back from Mars, except it was at Burning Man beaming stuff to people in Michigan that were, you know, stuck at home or wherever they were, logged into some YouTube channel.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about that for a second. How does somebody get to Burning Man if they've never been to before? Brute strength? Is there an elegant way to do it from your...
Well, there's so many regional networks now that I think if you really wanted to go and you really wanted to get involved in the community, a lot of it happens on Facebook. I know Facebook's not really in vogue anymore, but a lot of stuff lives there. And if you're just kind of put some stuff out and you go, hey, you know, Michigan Burning Man community, right? You're gonna get some people from this town, you know, you might have to travel a couple of hours. They might not be your people. They might be your people. You don't know. You might have to go to Chicago. You might have to go to, you know, Milwaukee. You might have to find your people. But you've got to go out in the world, and you got to be in touch, and you got to show up. You know, most of the stuff that I did was because somebody would say, I need a carpenter. And I would be like, hey, I have this skill. And I would go do it. And the next thing you know, I'm like bending sheet metal and working with plexiglass and stuff and wireless networks to do an art car. Or I'm bending giant poles to do a Tiki Island art car or something, you know? They put you to task. And through that, you kind of forge relationships, you know? You smash your finger with somebody, and you know, you're like, ah, and you know, and then all of a sudden they're your best buddy, you know.
Remember that time you smashed your finger building?
You create those stories, and you create that tension. Essentially, is what it is. And there's this tension. It's like watching a good movie, essentially, for 6-7 months as you build this project, and then all of a sudden you get out there and you deploy it, and there's this cathartic release of like, oh my gosh, like we accomplished this. And I look at Spencer and I look at, you know, that team of people that did this thing with, and now we all have this like really bonding experience that we can go back to wherever we came from and be like, you know, I guess if I'm ever in Michigan, I could probably call Spencer up and be like, hey dude, what's up? Let's go get a beer. And we'd be like picking up right where you left off. You know? Because you earned that.
Yeah, the uniqueness of working with people that are interested in that sort of thing, and the somewhat dangerous nature of building anything, and having the reward, the carrot at the end of the tunnel for a big, huge party to celebrate it. I mean, what else builds community more than that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it's a burn project, it's
almost like a new age sports team.
It is.
In a way.
That's a great analogy, you know, and if it's a burn project like what we did, we kind of got a little ripped off because of the weather.
Yeah.
But the catharsis, the release of watching that thing burn down, and all of the emotion that was put into that, the good, the bad, the ugly, the dirty, everything.
Yeah.
And then just watching it go,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Full circle.
It's full circle.
Yeah.
You know, and you have an experience, you can't carbon copy that in anything else. I mean, maybe if you were racing sailboats, you get the same thing, you know, your team did this great thing. It's that kind of stuff, you know?
Maybe. I think the beauty, a lot of it might be in the practice of it, in the journey of it.
It is the journey.
And when you're building something, you have something to show at the end of the day. I'm not by any means, I'm not trying to discredit your analogy because I think it's valid, but the ethereal nature of racing versus the substantial nature of building, it's the same result, I think, but with building you get to look at it until you burn it.
Right, but Burningman is ethereal.
Yeah, that's right. It turns into an ethereal.
You will never go back to that same burn.
So maybe it is the same.
You will never probably be with that same group of people.
Yeah.
You might have
in the same way.
Right, you might have one or two of those people that are your like ride or dies, but
Yeah.
then you're gonna have those 6 new volunteers that showed up.
Yeah.
That bring a whole different dynamic to everything.
Yeah.
So it is, and you know, as great as it is, that's almost like the other side, the darker side of it, and that's why so many people, and I'm just going to touch on this, the decompression after Burning Man is really hard.
I remember you telling me about that.
You know,
yeah.
because for 9-10 months, you know, you're wanted, needed, whatever, and then you go home and you just had this amazing experience, and you talk to your family who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They can't fathom it because they've never been.
Yeah.
And you get this like loneliness kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it becomes mentally stressful for a lot of people, and it sometimes gets really sad.
Yeah. Finding your way off the mountain.
Finding your way off the mountain. But you know what you do? You go get on that Facebook and you reach out, hey, what's the next project?
Yeah.
You know, and then you become project orientated, and that you just keep parlaying that, and where it takes you, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your project this time. You know?
That'd be cool.
Who knows?
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. Do you know the 10 principles?
Not off the top of my head,
Yeah,
but I
me
can
neither.
tell you my favorite one.
What's that?
Immediacy.
Oh, why is that your favorite one?
Because there's no substitute for it right now.
Yeah.
If it's here, jump on it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be here tomorrow, and you might not get another chance.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Radical self-sufficiency.
And, well, yeah.
But I think some people say it's radical codependency.
I think a lot of that's changed in the new Burning Man. Sadly enough, in the new world, radical inclusion is really also another one.
Yeah.
We want everybody to come and see this.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to know that they're welcome. It doesn't matter where on the, you know, spectrum. There's something there for everybody. It will change the way you view the world.
Yeah, I know one of the things, you know, being a country boy from Michigan, one of the things that was really poignant to me is that there's no limits, there's no boundaries. What do you want to do? It's up to you.
Yeah.
Your only limit's your imagination, and it's easy to say that, and there's a lot of environments where you can say that and it's not true. But to me at Burning Man, it was true. It was just like, whatever you can craft up. I mean, let's maybe paint a picture for the folks. When we were building our project, I've got this vision on the last day or two when we had a couple cranes, 2 petty bones, I think, 3 scissor lifts, all from the heavy equipment depot that's there for artist support. And that was just a fraction of the equipment they had.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were building on the playa there for that 10 days or so, 12 days, seeing the cranes in the distance was more normal than not.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I could say this year I had 3 distinct Burning Mans.
Yeah.
I had the Burning Man for the first 3 days when it was just me and the artist and a couple of the other folks. And then I had the Build Week Burning Man, which I've had a number of times before. And then the party Burning Man,
mm-hmm.
right? Which I never really got to the party because I was so done by the time.
yeah, so fatigued.
So fatigued by the time the party started. Which is a good place to be when the party starts, actually, because you're already there.
Having something to celebrate's the real.
Yeah, but this is, I don't want to paint a real picture. It's not easy to do what we did. It is not easy. It's hot.
Yeah.
It's dusty.
Yeah.
It's white out. There's no difference. I was going to tell you this the other day when we were talking about winter in Michigan. You know, I'm sure that here when the wind's blowing 35, 40 miles an hour and the snow is coming sideways and you're all wrapped up and you're trying to get from, the house to the barn or whatever to feed the chickens or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's nasty. It is unforgiving, miserable, and nasty. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's the opposite of Burning Man. It's 100 degrees. The dust is so thick you can't see your hand in front of your head. You're all wrapped up. You've got your goggles on, and you're on top of a scissor lift with a 4,000-pound piece of lumber being kited in over your head while you land it and drill it into place.
With some 20-year-old coders on the other side of the beam.
With some 20-year-old, yeah, exactly. Some 20-year-old coder who showed up to volunteer, to be a carpenter.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's fucking hard, dude. And you got to see that, and that's a crucible.
Yeah.
You're either gonna want to do it or you're never gonna want to do it again. And those are the defining moments in a person's life.
Yeah, the folks that like being tested versus the ones that avoid it.
Right.
You come from a tough stock. You like being tested.
I guess I do. I like to test. I have always tested the boundaries, and I paid for it from time to time.
Yeah.
But I got stories. And I want to keep doing it. I just want to keep seeing what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing it because you can.
Yeah, because one day I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna sit and not being able to, and I'm gonna tell my stories to those and hopefully inspire them to go out and live their best lives and be their best selves, and
Yeah. Now you found yourself to LA. You've grown up there, but your family's from Australia. Your father's.
My father came from Australia.
And you've still got that side of the family there in Australia.
Oh yeah, there's a whole mob of them over there.
And you were telling me some funny stories earlier.
Yeah.
What do you think? As far as I think Australia is another one of those mysterious places. I guess speaking from experience as like a Michigander, I don't know that many people that's been to Burning Man. I don't know that many people that's been to Australia. They're both kind of mysterious places.
And I've been to both.
You're thick with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
know many people from Michigan though. So.
Yeah, we're a mysterious bunch too.
You are.
One way, right?
Exactly.
Why do those guys like the cold so much? A bunch of weirdos.
Yeah. What do you want to know about Australia?
Well, the same kind of mysterious side of it. Like, what do you think? What do you think really makes a true blue Australian tick? What's the ethos of the toughness that I guess I'm imagining to be true, the legends of toughness.
I think it's just I think you just gotta you're there, I think you're
the heat's gotta be part of it.
Yeah, but Australia's got heat. It's got a lot of where we're at right now reminds me of where my uncle and aunt live up in the country, I don't, other than the accent, I don't really see a lot of difference between the mannerisms of some of my cousins and say yourself.
Oh, okay.
They're country too, and they just, I don't know. It's hard. That's a hard question, and I really would love to give you a better answer for it.
Oh, that's all right.
I draw a lot of parallels. Like, you could very easily be one of my cousins in Australia. They're intellectual, they're smart, but they're also hardworking, and they just got a different view on life. Maybe it's the simpler view, But then again, I think you kind of have a simpler outlook on life too.
Yeah, try to.
Maybe my city-dwelling self is just put myself in a self-imposed pressure cooker for so long that
treadmill's pretty fast in the city.
Yeah. And that, I'm not going on to COVID, but that was like one of the beautiful things about that is kind of allowed a lot of us to get off our hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. And really be like, oh, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So, but let's not talk about
let's move on from that one for sure. What?
edit that out.
Yeah, I know. Let's just edit out the last couple of years. It seems like it was really nice to be able to go across the country, because we drove from Michigan to Reno essentially.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to be able to drive across all those states and not have anybody ask us any questions. It's just like it still feels like a little bit of a luxury to be able to move around unabated by any sort of like authority. And I don't know, I guess I'm still kind of lingering on the COVID side of things, but it's nice to feel like we're on the other side of it. And,
Definitely.
and the no masks and the back to work and nothing's closed, and like it feels very much like, I imagine it feels very much like coming out of a bunker at the end of a war kind of thing.
Yeah, the fear is abating.
It seems like it. It's nice.
It is nice,
Yeah.
Ironically though, if you when I talked to my therapist about COVID in the very beginning, and she was like, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing great." And she's like, "What do you mean? How are you doing great?" And I was like, "Well, I think all of those like anxiety things that I have that don't serve me when things are calm are absolutely perfect when the world is going to shit. I am spot on my game when the world is going to shit.
Yeah,
I can think clear. I know the world outside is bad, but I'm okay. It's when the world is fine and my head says it's bad out there and I go into that like weird anxiety, that's when it's bad. But when the world's going to shit, or when there's a dust storm and you can't see your face and you got a big project to go, and that's when I rise to the occasion.
Focusing.
Yeah.
It was a mental challenge. Like starting on like day 5, I think. I was just like, this is how much I expected to do. And then there was day 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. And each day I'm just like, oh, I don't want to go back. And then in the morning I'd be like, I gotta go back. And there I'd be chugging along. And it's just like, it's one of those experiences that I don't know that there's any other way to get that sort of, get that side of me out there. There's no other test that I can think of that would even be close to that.
Short of maybe going to war or some horrific accident or
outside of a life
crashing your race boat and there is a huge component to that. And I think that's where the transformation happens. Is you push yourself so far out of your normal like paradigm that each time it just gets a little bigger and a little bigger, and each time you go, you're going to take on more,
Society's become so, I don't know if the right word's repressed, but a little bit, in the sense like it's so easy. We're house cats. We got the TVs, we got the cars, we got the everything. It's just, it seems like it's become so safe that it's easy to not really pressure test yourself and see what you're made of, and see what also comes out of that, in the sense of knowing what you need to work on when you're in a pressure-filled situation.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we talked about sailing. One of the things that I wanted to originally come out here is sailing. I think one of the reasons why I want to go sail is I don't know where else to find that pressure cooker. I don't know where to find that next thing. I'm never gonna climb a mountain. That doesn't like, it's not me. But could I go out and cross 6,000 miles of Pacific Ocean with swells bigger than the boat that I'm on?
Other people have.
Other people do
every day.
But could I do that? And can I do that? And when I accomplish that, where would that leave me? And where do we get that today? There's a part of humanity, I think, that just craves that. And that's why you get like people that go bungee jumping off of whatever, and Red Bull guys that get in their little bat suits and jump off alpine mountains and fly down that to me is bananas. But there's a where else do you test yourself in these things?
I know, in a relatively
controlled safe.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not hunting wolves anymore and bears, and there's no real.
They're not hunting us.
They're not hunting us. Yeah, I guess that's probably a better way to put it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're not hunting us.